don't know if this is gonna go well. Hi, it's nighttime and my lighting isn't great, but we're just gonna try. We're gonna try and see how this goes. Okay, the purpose of this video is two things. One, I wanted to talk about being unplugged for a day every weekend, inspired by Little Brown. And because it's inspired by Little Brown, I'm gonna do a Little Brown book haul. So that's what this is. If you'd like to stay for that, then happy to have you. Last weekend on Saturday, Little Brown celebrated like the National Day of Unplugging, and so I did not use my phone or any sort of media or really any electronics really last Saturday, and it was fantastic. I felt like really rejuvenated by it all, and I also think it's really interesting that we're at the point where like we need to have those days as opposed to like having like a fun day with media, because we're just so saturated by it. And I felt like I thought it was gonna be like, oh, yeah, I'll do that for a day, that's no big deal. But it really shocked me how much I wanted to particularly go for my phone. I watch YouTube and videos from my phone constantly, or I'll play music or something from it constantly. And I didn't realize how constant that was until I said I wasn't going to use it anymore. I thought it was really interesting, and it definitely gave me more genuine self-care than I've had in a while. It inspired me to like go to yoga and kick that back up again. I haven't been in so long, and I need like more of a routine with that kind of stuff. And I felt like this was like the kickoff that I needed. And it went really well. So this weekend I tried something somewhat similar, but I didn't want to set it so rigid. For example, I went to see the movie Love, Simon today, and technically like that's a form of not really being unplugged. I also like shared about it, and obviously I'm filming this video now, and I took pictures today. And I don't want to be so rigid about what that means for me, but I want to make it work in a way that I'm being more mindful about using that kind of stuff, particularly on the weekends when I do have the opportunity to detach a little bit more. Because Little Brown was who inspired me to start doing that, I thought that it would be fun to share some of the recent Little Brown books that I've received. I recently became a Little Brown book ambassador, so I do receive books from Little Brown. They didn't ask me to do this. I felt like it was something I was really excited to share about. So I'm gonna share about some of the books now. For those of you that already watched my favorites video, then you know about Waking Lions. This has been my favorite book so far that I've received from Little Brown. It was just so fantastic. It had like significant depth, specifically around working through moral dilemmas, and I thought it was a really interesting read. I talked about it a lot already in that video, so if you're interested, I recommend you see it there. I don't think I've talked about this book so much, but I did read it a little while ago because I picked up an ARC from my local bookstore that gives away ARCs. But it is Red Clocks. The cover is just like so badass to me, I think. It's a story that is told from the perspective of 5 different women, and each of their stories end up interweaving with one another. And I'm not gonna give away really like any details about each of the characters because I thought it was really exciting going in not knowing about each of them really well. I did reference the back a few times because they do start to get so interwoven that I'm sort of like, who are we talking about and what is their role? But I thought it was really great, really interesting. I may have talked about this in more detail before in a previous video, like from the summer or something, or like when I went home to Southern California. And if I did, I definitely went into too much depth then and would not do that now. So just stay here, don't go back to that. The next book I'm going to talk about is Feast Days. This just recently came out like a week or so ago. This is an ARC copy. It's the story of a girl named Emma who moves from New York to Brazil during a time of significant crisis in Brazil. And I haven't finished this yet. It is definitely on my radar and is one that I have been really wanting to get into. There's a lot going on, like in a general life and societal sense, but also like within her relationship, and it felt like a lot and I wasn't looking for a lot recently, but I usually am, so this will come up very soon. The next book is The House of Broken Angels. This is one that I'm still reading. It's taken me a little bit longer just because I don't really know why. I think it's like some of the content. It's a story about a family and all the different people that make up that family, and it kind of switches between the characters unexpectedly, and there's a lot of depth to each person, and it's told in a really unique way, but there's a lot that goes on. The family just experienced a great loss. One of the characters is very sick and is coping with that, and his sons are going through a lot of different crises and dilemmas, and I think because I recently experienced some of these different things that it's just taken me a little bit longer to absorb, but I really like it. I like how this is going. Sometimes it's just a sign for me if it goes a little bit slower that I need to check myself a little bit and maybe it's not the right time to read it. But I do really love it, and these covers are just like, oh, they're so pretty. And the first one is Blue Dreams. This one felt particularly exciting to me because it is within my field of mental health and psychology, and it goes into detail about the use of psychotropic drugs. And I love books like this, particularly books that go into the truth behind the use of those drugs. And it's something that's significantly under-discussed, really not talked about, and I have a ton of recommendations if you're ever interested in books that go into that topic. But this one in particular got so much praise from people within the field that I really trust, and I felt like it was really well done. So I recommend this one for sure if you're in the field or if you're a clinician or studying to be a clinician. This is a good one, and it's not super like jargon heavy. I appreciate that. I'm not always here for, grad school's over and I am not always here for that anymore. I'll do it, but. The other nonfiction book is Hormonal, which goes into the science of our hormones. It delves a little bit deeper, not solely into just like the science of it, but how it impacts our relationships and our decisions and choices and things like that. And I think this is super interesting. I am really interested in things like this feels obvious, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I'm really interested in things like personality and specifically like relationship building. I think it's really interesting, and I feel like we don't often talk about the impact that hormones have on those experiences, myself included, definitely. I'm a very not oriented in this way, so I thought this was really interesting. I haven't finished this one yet, but I will come back and share about it. I'm planning to do some sort of like clinical reads recommendations at some point, so maybe this will make the cut. We'll see. I also have these two pretty dark reads that I haven't finished yet. Again, for the same reasons that I read based on mood, and if I'm not in the mood, I feel like it's not a fair experience for the read. So the two darker books are The Which Way Tree and A Map of the Dark. They're both very different. This book, from what I understand, there are people that get attacked by a panther, which is terrifying, and they're then like set out on this mission to like find this panther. But it's much more deep than that. There's a lot of historical context within it that I think is really deep and a lot, and I'm interested. I just can't go there yet, and I'll get there. We'll see. And I'll come back to this one and share about it at that time. And then A Map of the Dark, again, is another really deep one where, from what I understand, there is a woman who's an FBI agent that is dealing with the loss of her father, or potential loss of her father. He's sick, and is then put on a really challenging case of, I believe, a serial killer who all the different clues lead her astray and make it really complicated and complex. I'm really interested in this one, and I wish it fit into one of the My Favorite Murder reading challenge categories, because it seems like it would, but I don't think it does. I am still really intrigued and I'm going to read it soon. This one I feel like more ready for, so this one will happen very soon. Those are the little brown books from my book haul. I hope that you got something from this video, maybe a little bit of book joy or recommendations, or maybe a little inspiration to try to unplug a little bit. Either way, I'm happy you were here, and I will see you next time.